And when we talk about balance, that's what we're actually after. And I think we are. I think it's something more than just how do we manage our schedule and our to-do list. I think there's something in us that wants to get rid of that nagging feeling of guilt that we're always failing.
Helping you design your roadmap to wholeness from the inside out. This is Win Today. And now, here's your host, Christopher Cook.
Hey friends, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me this week for episode 261, where we're talking about the illusion of life balance and how to order your life to do what really matters. You know, for a lot of us listening today, we have a laundry list of shoulds, I'm raising my hand, that are weighed down by the feelings of guilt for not doing what we think we should be doing, the expectations of other people, and of course, you know, that's where people pleasing gets into the mix, and I'm an expert in people pleasing. I don't know about you guys, but listen, today, Ramsey personality, my friend Christy Wright joins the conversation to teach why you don't have the right to say no. You have the responsibility to say no. This is a value-adding conversation, and I can't wait to share it with you in just a second. But quickly, before we head into our conversation with Christy, if you're enjoying the podcast, will you share it with somebody? Send a text to a friend or a family member and invite them to listen as well. And then rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening. Here's why. When you rate, review, and share Win Today, the listenership here grows. Simple as that. So thank you for listening and for doing just that. Right now, my conversation with Ramsey personality Christy Wright on the illusion of life balance and how to do what really matters. You're listening to Win Today. Christy, I want to dive right in. We're talking about a subject today that I think a lot of people are misinformed about, and some people are excited about, and some people are turned off about. We're talking about life balance today, you know? And here's where I want to start. You know, when people hear the phrase life balance, I'm sure some people wish they knew how to achieve it. But for many, as I alluded to, they give that subtle eye roll because they think it's just an illusion. But if we slow down to understand what it really is, it hits a nerve for a lot of people, me included. Why are you so focused right here these days?
You know what's interesting is I just love solving problems. I think that's my entrepreneur spirit. And in 10 years of being a public speaker, this is the number one topic I'm asked about. And so what's interesting is, just like you pointed out, Chris, people have a lot of feelings about it. So eye rolls, balance is BS, balance doesn't exist, all that. But they still keep asking about it. And they still keep talking about it. And so I'm like, there's something in us that wants something more, and we're calling it balance. What's interesting, though, is when I'm asked this question, I'm always asked in the same way. How do you balance it all? How do you balance everything? And balance is always a verb, you know, like this trade-off that we've got. And so I started thinking about how we ask the question and how we feel about it and all the, you know, ideas we have around this word. And oh my gosh, we have all the analogies, right? Like walking a tightrope and spinning plates and juggling balls and all the things. And the truth is, those visuals, like, that doesn't feel great. That looks stressful and full of anxiety. Like, you look at jugglers, they don't look real relaxed. And so I'm going, I can do all that. I can spin the plates and juggle the balls and walk the tightrope and still feel out of balance. I can still feel like something is not right in my life. And that led me to a different question, honestly, as I approached writing this book, which is something I've spoken on for years. But as I really wanted to dig into this topic, I started asking, what if balance is not so much something you do, how you balance it all like a verb? What if instead balance is something you create? What if it's something you can become, where you could become a balanced person in an out of balance world, where you could create a sense of balance even in a busy schedule or a busy season, where balance looks more like peace and being confident in your choices when you say yes to this thing or no to that thing? What if it looks like just being happy in your life? And when we talk about balance, that's what we're actually after. And I think we are. I think it's something more than just how do we manage our schedule and our to-do list. I think there's something in us that wants to get rid of that nagging feeling of guilt that we're always failing. And we just want to be proud of how we're spending our time. And so that's really the heart behind the message of this book. This is not a productivity book. This is a book about how to shake the guilt, create your version of balance, and actually enjoy your life.
I love that. And you know what's fascinating is as we've moved through a difficult year as a society in the world, I work with a couple different spectrums of people. One, because they're crushing it. They're going after it. They're crushing their goals. But then there's maybe another group of people who Monday morning hits and they're like, I'm really anxious, and it's sitting under the surface, and it's been there for so long, I don't know where it started. Yeah. Where does this message fit in that continuum of I'm crushing life, I'm going after it, I'm becoming my best self, and all those have their place? Where does this fit within that? And then I'm struggling just to do Monday.
Yeah, well, I think it really comes down to, I think that the simplest answer is what I hope is the better definition of life balance. And so I wanted to redefine life balance. I think a lot of people feel this pressure to do everything for an equal amount of time, to have this perfect 50-50 split. And so what I say in my book is life balance is not doing everything for an equal amount of time. It's about doing the right things at the right time. And when you do the right things at the right time, you will feel that sense of balance you've been looking for, whether you are training 60 hours a week like the Olympians are getting ready for the Olympics this summer, or you're a new mom simply trying to get one shower a week with your newborn baby, or you are an accountant in April and you're crushing it for tax deadline. Like, just because your season looks a certain way doesn't mean your whole world is out of balance. When you do the right things at the right time, whether that's training or trying to sleep, get any sleep in the day with your newborn, or an accountant working 16-hour days, when you do what's right at the right time, you actually feel balanced. But what's so interesting is then it applies to everyone. It applies to the person crushing their goals, and it applies to that person that's feeling anxious, because the person that's anxious, you're going, okay, well, what's right for you? If we can help you figure out what's right for you, it can lessen. Now, I'm not trying to be a doctor diagnosing anxiety, but I do think there's an element of we feel tension when we do the wrong things or we're not doing the right things. And I talk about this a little bit in the book, because if life balance is doing the right things at the right time, well, then what keeps us from that? What keeps us from feeling balanced? And I think there's 4 causes: doing too many things, not doing enough things, doing the wrong things, and not doing the right things. All of those, and different people can relate to different ones. Your person that's your high driving achiever, they're still going to try to do more than their days can hold, and they're going to be worn out and rushed, and they're going to feel out of balance simply because they're trying to cram too much in. But an opposite end of the spectrum, and many people experienced this last year with COVID. At first we loved this gift of free time when our calendars were cleared, but after a while we got bored. And if you don't have relationships to connect with and responsibility to show up for and outlets to use your gift, you're going to be bored and out of balance. Another example might be someone that's an empty nester and their kids are off to college and they have all this time and they're going, I don't know what to do. Or someone newly retired, I don't know what to do in this new season. So if you're doing too many things or not enough things, you're going to feel out of balance. But also, if you're doing the wrong things, if you're working in a job you hate, if you have a bunch of commitments that suck the life out of you, what does it matter how perfectly you manage your calendar? You're going to feel out of balance because you're spending your time in your one life on the wrong things that are not important to you. And again, the 4th example, if you're not doing the right things, if there are things that are life-giving, that are important, that mean a lot to you, and they're not in your schedule in your life, you're going to feel out of balance because those right things are not there. So that's why I think that definition is so critical. It's doing the right things at the right time. And when you do that, you feel that sense of balance you've been looking for, but it helps apply to you regardless of where you are, your age, your season, where or how you work, whatever your family looks like. You get to decide what's right for you, and then you can spend time on it once you know what that is.
I love that, Christy, and I want to unpack this a little bit more, get to the issue behind the issue, because one of the things that I think threads through your answer is the shoulds. I should be doing this. I should be doing this. And then you tipped your hat to this in the book. We're weighed down by feelings of guilt for not doing what we think we should be doing. So number one, I'd love to spend some time on this issue of getting rid of the shoulds. But number two, refining our ability to discern for ourselves what matters most.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so the shoulds. Let's talk about the shoulds.
Yeah.
One of the things, and I haven't talked about this recently, and so I'm excited you asked about this. Shoulds, I think, come from one of 2 places primarily. One place that it comes from is comparison. So you see how all the other people on social media are doing it, all the moms in your mom group are doing it, how your parents did it, how your neighbors did it, wherever you're looking. people are doing something a certain way and you tell yourself, I should do that. But what's so interesting is we have this like tendency towards codependency. It's not just comparison. It's like, well, because they're doing it, I have to do it. Because they're doing it has nothing to do with you. Nothing. The people swimming in the Olympics right now, I don't feel inclined to go swim in the pool. I'm like, this is not my life. This is their life. So when we can separate ourselves from other people and appreciate what they're doing and understand that that's their life, and that does not mean that that's what we need to be doing, it gives us a little bit of freedom to let go of those shoulds because we're no longer putting their stuff on us. Their stuff is theirs, our stuff is ours, and so on. So I think the shoulds come from other people, and comparison was one of them. And sometimes they can say that you should. It's like, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah.
The second place, and this is where it comes for me a lot of times. Okay, so I'm an idea person, all right? And I know a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, that are creatives, they're idea people. Here's what will happen, all right? I might get an idea in my head, Chris, and I have 100 ideas a day. So let's just say one of these ideas is, you know what I could do? I could hand make some homemade pies for every single person on my street. Like that would be such a nice gesture. And like I could get organic ingredients and like I could use a really great, I could do that. That would be so nice. And then somehow between this idea of I could, it turns into I should. Well, I've got to get the ingredients. Well, I've got to put on my to-do list. Well, I've got to stay up late. Well, I've got to bake. It's like I made that idea up. My coulds turn into shoulds. And if we will check our shoulds and say like, where did that come from? Let's pull the thread. Where did that come from? Was it an idea I just made up in my head? Was it because I saw someone on social media do it? Was it because my, aunt told me I should, where did this idea come from? And then when you start to back out of it, you can get the origin of that should, and you can really discern, to your point, if you should do it or not. Another thing that I want to help people understand is, and this is kind of what leads me into the discernment question you asked. So we have a lot of interests. A lot of people have a lot of interests. That's not a bad thing. There's a lot of good things in the world. We have a lot of things we like to do and so on. Well, because I like to work out and because I want to work out and I need to work out to stay healthy, then what can happen is one of my many interests, let's say that I've got, 10 to 15 in life in general, I hold myself to the pressure that I have to act on all of those interests every day. And that goes back to the everything for equal amount of time pressure that we feel. So when I'm in a season where working out is not a priority, then when I don't work out, if I'm not careful, I put that pressure on myself and feel that guilt and tell myself, oh, I should work out because I'm not working out, I'm failing. And I think a lot of people have this narrative that they're failing, and it's simply untrue. So I want to give your listeners a very practical, simple question they can ask themselves. And this is a question that can help you discern what's most important in relation to your season that's specific to what you're going through. It will also help you be present for those things. So here's the question. It's super simple. What's right now? What's right now? You can do this on a day. Okay, I'm feeling stressed. I didn't work out. I don't know what my kids, what's right now? What's right now? In a given week, what's right now? In a season, what's right now? What's so powerful about this very simple question is when you ask yourself, what's right now, you are able to discern the important from all the other stuff that's good, exciting, that your friends are doing, that's fun, that's distracting, that's all the other things, that shoulds, the pressure. And instead you say, okay, what's right now? So if you are a mom of a newborn, what's right now? Probably just trying to adjust to having a baby and getting some sleep when you can. If you get 1 shower a week, you're probably doing great. If you're an accountant in March, what's right now? You're working your tail off to get all those tax deadlines in. I'll give you an example. This summer, I played a lot. I was at the lake. I didn't work on Fridays. I went tubing with my kids. I skied with my husband. We had so much fun. What was right in the summer was playing and being with my family. But right now, what's right now? I'm in book launch season. I work long days. So things that might make it above the line, might make the cut in a normal lighter season, like working out, time with friends, having a clean house. Those are things that were true this summer. They've now in this season fallen below the line. Now here's why that matters. When I walk through my house and it isn't clean, or my girlfriend's text, like for example, they're going out to eat tonight and I'm not going. And they say, hey, can you hang out? And I can't hang out. Instead of me then drawing the conclusion, well, I'm failing because my house isn't clean, I'm not seeing my girlfriends, and I'm not working out. when I ask myself what's right now, well, what's right now, Chris, is launching my book. And I'm actually doing exactly what's right now. So my house, my friends, my working out is not a sign of failure. It just means it's not right now.
Yeah.
It helps you shake the guilt from things that are not right now. Also knowing just because it's not right now doesn't mean it's never right. I was working out this summer. I'll probably work out in the spring, but right now I'm shifting gears to this season. And so it's a very powerful question to ask yourself to discern what is right now for you in your season of life and your priorities. It helps you shake the guilt for all the things that are not right now, knowing they may be right later. It doesn't mean you're giving up on them entirely. And also it gives you the ability to focus your attention to that thing that's right now, be present for it, and actually enjoy it more because you've given yourself the gift of knowing you're doing the right things at the right time.
Christy, one of the things I appreciate about you so much is that I know you didn't just come up with this as an idea, you lived this. Take us back to May 2016. You wrote that you felt like you were trying to climb out of quicksand. What was happening?
Yeah, well, I had just overcommitted myself, honestly. It was an awesome opportunity in the marketplace, in our company, of trying to build the business boutique brand, which is my first book, events, podcast, a coaching group. It was all the things. And we had all the resources and all the people coming around me. And so because I was excited and because there was a need and because I wanted to, I just said yes to everything. Said yes to everything. Yes, we'll do this. Yes, I can make it work. And my default answer is yes. Like a lot of people, like my default is yes. I have to restrain myself to not say yes to something. And so after looking ahead to my calendar, I had been running so hard and I was pregnant with my second son, Conley, and I was working such long days. And I literally felt like I would take 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. And it wasn't that I wasn't making progress. It was just like as soon as I would check some things off or knock some things out, the list piled on tenfold. And so it was like I couldn't even keep up with all the things coming at me. And so I wrote it all out and calculated all the hours needed to do the things I had committed to, from recordings to book chapters to all the things. I was writing the book at the time. And I don't remember the exact hours. I have it in the book, but basically the hours that I had in the time frame allotted did not meet the hours needed. And so in a very practical way, if I never ate food, went to the bathroom, or ever took a break, I still wouldn't get it all done. And it was in that moment that I realized something had to change. That would be an example of the people I talked about. You're doing too many things. I use an analogy of my groceries. So when I get home and my trunk is full of groceries, it doesn't matter if I have 20 bags or 40 bags. Every single time I look at it, I go, oh yeah, I can totally get this in one trip, right? And I'm like loading up the bags in my arms, my veins are bulging out, my wrists are blue, and I'm like, trying to walk in. And of course, bags are breaking, apples are rolling down the street, I'm frustrated, all that. And it's because I was never meant to carry that much at one time.
Yeah.
And I think that when we get in that place with our schedules, we get frustrated, it doesn't all fit. And it's like, yeah, well, of course it doesn't fit. Your time is finite. You have overcommitted yourself. And so that led me to being more intentional with my calendar, I guess is what I would say. And I think that's key. But like we talk about in the book, it's not just a calendar issue. This what we're talking about with balance is about enjoying the life that the calendar represents. The calendar can be a symptom, but there are such deeper issues at play.
That's really good. I will take an aside real fast and tell you, I did find the secret to one trip out of the car to the house.
What is it?
So Whole Foods sells those vinyl zip bags. If you get those, you can fit more in them, and they won't break. So let's go. You get the tricep workout, especially if you're walking up steps. I did it last Friday, Christy. It works.
That's awesome.
It's great.
That's awesome.
Hey, I want to spend some more time on getting back to this root issue, because everything we talk about here on the podcast is really wholeness, and it's unearthing and exposing the encumbrances we don't know that are there. And so for a lot of people, the attempt to achieve life balance, Christy, I believe is an attempt to fix an identity issue. And you kind of went there in the book, which I loved. So the situation is this: if I did this better, if I checked the boxes of I should, as we talked about a moment ago, I wouldn't be a failure. I would be respected. I would belong. I would be loved. So this belief statement below our thoughts in the subconscious is, I am hopeless. I am a failure. I am fill in the blank. How do you coach people through that? A lot of people joined with us today, Christy, are saying, Chris, thank goodness we're not having a productivity conversation today, because I've had enough and it's not changing me from the inside out. I need to heal. I am a failure. What do you say?
Yeah, it's interesting because I definitely have felt that feeling of feeling like you're failing and always feeling like the solution is to do more, right? Like we always want to do more. Even in scriptures, like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to inherit the kingdom? Like we're doers. We're like, my solution is to pull myself up by my bootstraps and do more. So I'm going to wake up earlier.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay up later, and I'm going to run faster in between. I can definitely run faster. I can multitask. I can just manage my calendar. And here's the thing. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We're just more tired. We don't feel more balanced. We don't feel more peace. We don't feel more happiness. We don't feel more confident in our choices. All these things we seek, we don't feel at all. We're just a whole lot more tired. In fact, what's interesting is by trying to do more and cram more in and run faster, we end up rushed and exhausted and impatient and resentful and unhappy. So we actually become people we don't even like in our life by simply trying to create this life we want, but it's the wrong path there. So one of the things I talk about so I'll lay this out in steps, 5 steps to the path to balance. The 5th one is about being present for what matters. And the reason I bring that up in context of your question is what's interesting is I noticed in my life that so much of my guilt always came from where I was not. I was always focused on where I was not. So if I was at work, I was focused on home. If I was at home, I was focused on work. I was always focused on where I was not. So of course I felt guilty because I was always focused on where I was not. What's interesting about this is we do this with our to-do list too. So you might have a to-do list and it has 50 things on it and you get 47 done and you beat yourself up for the 3 that you didn't get to. And so you tell yourself a story. I'm a failure. I'm lazy. I don't work hard enough. I'm not smart enough to be productive enough. I didn't get it done. I'm not getting the things done. I'm not enough. All those things you said. But so often they come from, in addition to other things, I'm sure, but they come from focusing on where we are not and what we are not doing. If I measured my success as a mom by me in this interview, it may not be a great report card. I'm not there. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. I think they're fine, but I have childcare and they're in school but I'm here with you, right? But if I'm spending this interview focused on my kids, of course I feel guilty. Well, if I go home and I'm hanging out with my kids and I'm worried about, I didn't respond to that email. I forgot to answer one of Chris's questions, or I didn't write that chapter. Then I feel like I'm failing at work because when I'm with my kids, I'm thinking about work. A very simple, practical step that your listeners can take is to flip your focus. Instead of living your life looking through the rearview mirror of what you just left behind, look through the front windshield of where you are. That means that wherever you are, be there. Be where your feet are. This isn't just an exercise in presence, which is powerful in and of itself, but it helps you shake the guilt because you realize I'm actually not failing. So when you look at that to-do list, you now go, I got 43 things. I got 47 things done. Can you believe how much I got done today? That is amazing that I got this done. Or even if it's 3 things or 5 things, you're focusing on being proud of what you did do instead of feeling bad about what you didn't get to. Same thing with where you are. So it's like, oh my gosh, I worked 10 hours a day. I am rocking it at work versus I work 10 hours a day. I'm a failure as a mom. When you focus on what you're doing right, when you're present in the moment that you're in and you're proud of what you have accomplished, it not only allows you to appreciate that more, but it helps you shake the guilt because it's almost as if one of the things I would do, Chris, is I would, I'm making exaggeration examples here, like a to-do list of 50 things and I get 47 done. And I'm like, oh, I didn't get those 3 done. Mm-hmm. It's almost as if I thought I did nothing. Like I just sat around eating Twizzlers all day and I didn't do anything. I mean, I'm just a failure. I didn't get those 3 things done. It's like, no, look at what you did do. I used this example earlier and it's a silly example, but I'll share it because I think it can be a powerful analogy.
Yeah.
So in high school, this is really weird to admit, but in high school, I thought I was fat. I was not fat. I was a size 6. I was a very normal size. But because all my girlfriends in high school were like a size 00, that's all I had to compare to. I thought I was fat. So I look back at pictures from high school and I'm like, girl, you were cute. Why didn't you know it? Like you were little. Why didn't you know that when you were there? The reason I shared that example is because, Chris, I feel like men and women walk around all day, every day, feeling like they're failing and they're not. They're not. And we're going to look back on this life in 20, 30 years and go, oh, you were doing awesome. Why didn't you know it? Why didn't you know how great of a mom you were to little kids, how awesome you were in your job, what a great friend you were. Why didn't you know it? And the heart behind this book is to help people know it. Yes, there are tactical things you can do to be more present, manage your calendar, align your schedule with things you care about most. But at the end of the day, I want people to feel the weight off their shoulders of the pressure and the voice that's been nagging at them, telling them they're failing. And I want to be a voice that goes, you are not failing. You're doing awesome. And I want you to know it. I think it's a really big perspective shift in how we view our lives and certainly our calendars.
Taking back your time, showing up, dumping the shoulds. The secret is found in what you just said, in being present, because too many of us live through the trauma of the past, what didn't happen, what didn't work out, and the fear of the future. In neither of those cases are we being present. The Holy Spirit is present with us right here. Jesus redeems us in our past. He goes before us. He goes ahead of us in our future. But he says, will you be present? Will you not look behind you? Will you put your hands to the plow today? Which enables us to ask ourselves the questions, what's right now?
Yeah, totally. And what's interesting is the implications of this idea of being present are way bigger than we realize. And I talk a little bit about this in the book on this step 5, be present for what matters. So there's interesting research because we all probably know, or I would assume many people know, that there is a direct correlation, and research backs this up, direct correlation between social media use and depression, social media use and anxiety, social media use and overall unhappiness.
Yes.
This is not breaking news here, but here's what is interesting. So while we already understand the effect of social media on us in terms of our mind going into this space, scrolling social media and so on, notifications, all that, there's another interesting research that I cite in the book from Harvard, and it's on mind wandering. Now we know our mind wanders, right? Like it's got to-do lists and checklists, and I got to do this. And to your point, our mind is always going. But these researchers at Harvard wanted to understand the effect of mind wandering on our lives. Does it have an effect? And what's fascinating is the results show that there is a direct correlation between mind wandering and overall unhappiness. And it was, in fact, not just correlation, but causation, meaning when our mind wanders, we are unhappier overall, regardless of the task that we're doing, even if you're doing something mundane. So what was so fascinating about this to me, Chris, is it made me realize when you look at how social media affects us and we check out on our phone, and then you look at how mind wandering affects us when our mind is always where our body isn't, we have truly trained ourselves to separate our mind from our body. And our mind is always somewhere else from where our body is. Well, we weren't created for that. And so we walk around all day, every day, a little bit sleepwalking, kind of like zombies that are dead. When you start to actively, mindfully bring your mind back to where your body is, where your feet are. And this sounds like a little bit of that woo-woo stuff. I'm not one of those woo-woo people, okay? But like truly just being present in your body. And
absolutely.
Space, you feel more alive.
Yes.
You notice lights and colors and textures, the texture of this chair, the sound of your voice, the feel of my hair on my shoulder. You actually feel more at home in your body and you feel more alive. And I know that sounds crazy, but the effects are absolutely huge. So you not only get to experience the moment you're in while you're in it, you even enjoy it more. And I think that is so powerful.
And I think one of the challenges in the whole be present thing, and again, guys, thanks for, Christy, thanks for saying like, this isn't woo-woo, because I think one of the things here that the listeners here love is real stuff, theoretical stuff doesn't get the job done at the end of the day. And I think one of the things I think about in what keeps me from being present is wanting to please everybody. And I'd love to hang out on the trap of people pleasing.
Sure.
And I know, in fact, that was one of your time traps, if I'm not mistaken, in the book, because it's so personal. Christy, number one, I don't like to disappoint people. And then number two, I probably do care too much about what people think of me and my performance, and am I showing up? Am I doing this and that? And it doesn't mean I'm not accountable in my life and I'm not responsible, but my ultimate worth and value is contingent upon my performance, which means I am slave to this thing called people pleasing. And I'm okay admitting it because I know I'm not the only person in this conversation who's there. And so I'd love for you to help us hurdle this trap.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I think that regardless of your personality style, everyone struggles with this. No one wants to make people mad. No one wants to disappoint people. I do think that certain personality styles, and this is just my opinion, I don't have research to back this up, but I do think certain personality styles are more inclined to people pleasing, that are more inclined to see themselves as a reflection of others. For anybody familiar with the Enneagram, I'm an 8. So it's not that I don't care what people think, but I think I care a little less. And it's not because I'm callous, and it's not because I'm just so mature, but I think that for me, it comes down to a sense of ownership. I am my own self. This is my life. It's my children, my family. So when someone doesn't like how I parent, it'll hurt my feelings. But I'm going, what's not their kids? To me, it always comes down to ownership. They're my kids, so I get to parent them how I want to, right? These are my choices in my life. You can make your choices in your life. So regardless of where it comes from, I do think we all struggle with this. But here's what's interesting, especially for people that are people of faith. I think that we have a tendency to try to be everything to everyone in the name of being a good Christian servant. And God actually never asked us to be everything to everyone at all. And if you look at the life of Jesus, he wasn't everything to everyone. He did not heal all the blind people. He did not raise all the people from the dead. He actually, if you look at his habits, went away and prayed. He would rest. He would be alone. and so I think that it's kind of ridiculous that we think that we are supposed to be the savior of the world and do everything for everyone. But I think that, what I love that you do in the show, Chris, is you peel away the layers of what's the issue behind the issue. And I think that if we can get honest for a second, and I'll get honest about my struggle with this. I think that I'm doing things to be helpful and be loving. And I think there's a piece of that that's certainly there. But if I'm being honest, it's because I want people to love me. It's because I want people to think I'm impressive. It's because I want people to think I'm a good person. And so none of us are immune to that. But I remember a pastor said years ago, there's a very big difference between doing something to be loving and doing it to be loved. And that got me. And I was like, if I'm honest, a lot of my serving is trying to earn love and accolades and people being impressed and applause and all of that. And so I think when we can separate ourselves from this neediness that we have to be impressive or neediness to be loved and understand that there is a God and it's not us, and that people will be okay with the world will go on without us, then what's interesting is it gives us permission to say no to things that are not right for us, knowing that everyone in the whole world is not our responsibility. It also allows us to show up with a different level of strength and joy for the things that are right for us. But I've shared this example before, but there have been times, I think that obviously if you are a person of faith and praying about if something is right for you, God won't always give you a clear answer, but sometimes he'll nudge you in one direction or the other. And there have been times that I have had an opportunity in front of me and I've been like, no, I can't. I'm too tired. I can't. And God is like, that one's a yes. And then God provides and I show up and he gives me grace to follow through on whatever that yes was supposed to be. There have been other times where I have said yes to something without asking him because I'm being a good Christian, right? I'm being a good Christian. Yes, I must just say yes to everything if I'm a good Christian. And I say yes to this thing and I show up to this thing and this thing is exhausting me and I'm frustrated and I'm resentful and I don't even want to be there. Like, it's just like so hard on me. And I will come back, or even in the moment sometimes God's like, that wasn't for you. You didn't ask me. If you'd asked me, that was going to be a no. You just bulldozed on ahead thinking you're just going to save the day. I didn't have that for you. That didn't have your name on it. And that can be powerful when we realize God actually will give us wisdom and discernment. And sometimes it's a yes when we think it's going to be a no. Sometimes it's a no when we think it's going to be a yes. But God knows where he wants us and where he needs us. And I just think it gives us permission to not only protect ourselves and our time and our life and our mind, but it also helps us discern which things are right, and which ones are not. And they're not all right.
Using the example that you just shared, just because we feel out of balance, you wrote, doesn't mean we are out of balance.
Yeah. So I gave 3 different examples in the book on things that do not necessarily mean you're out of balance. Tired, stressed, and overwhelmed. Tired does not necessarily mean you're totally out of balance. Stress does not mean you're totally out of balance. And overwhelmed does not mean you're out of balance. What's interesting that I think some of us can be guilty of, I certainly am, is we will feel something or experience something negative. The word in itself we think is negative. I'm tired, so this must be wrong. I'm stressed, so this must be wrong. I'm overwhelmed, so this must be wrong. Or this is hard, so this must be wrong. Listen, Tired could just mean you didn't get enough sleep last night.
Yeah.
Stress could mean you had a hard day at work. Overwhelmed could mean you're in a season that's really difficult. You don't know how to deal with it. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It's almost as if we like have this implied standard in our head that everything's supposed to be easy and fun. We would never say that. We know intellectually it's not, but it's almost as if we expect it will. And when it's not, when it's hard, when we're tired, when we're stressed, when we're overall, we're like firing the alarms, like something's wrong, something's wrong. I must be failing. It's like, no, I said the other day, this is such a simple example, but I said the other day to one of my girlfriends, she's like, how you doing? I was like, I am tired. She goes, yeah, you got 3 kids. And it was just like that simple. It's like, well, of course you're tired. You've got 3 kids under age 6. I'm in a season of little kids. That is exhausting. It doesn't mean I'm failing. It doesn't mean my life is wrong. It just means I'm tired. So when you can separate these feelings or these adjectives that we associate with the whole world being wrong, and instead identify a situation or a season or a circumstance that explains that, it helps us remove our identity from it. My life is not wrong. I'm still doing the right things at the right time. I'm tired, but I'm doing the right things. I'm just in a season that's tiring. Well, that gives you a little bit of, it gives you almost a motivation to get through the season because you're going, oh, it's just a season. It's not forever. But the other thing it does is I think it helps you shake that narrative that you're failing. You're like, no, I'm not failing. Of course it's hard. I've got 3 kids. No, I'm not failing. Of course I'm tired. I didn't get any sleep last night. That's all it is. You put it in a box and label it and remove your identity from it. I tell people all the time, you are not the season you are in. Your season is where you are, not who you are. But if we're not careful, we look around ourselves and we draw conclusions about our identity based on the season we're in. I look at my house and it's a mess because I've got 3 little kids and I think I'm a mess. No, I am not a mess. I have 3 little kids that make a mess. I am not a mess.
That's so
and
helpful.
So in a very tactical way, when we remove our identity from the season that we're in or the circumstances or even the feelings that we have on a given day, it gives us more power and it helps us have a healthier perspective on what's going on in our world without feeling like everything is wrong when it's not.
So the other side of this then is a lot of us, in reaction to a situation like you just described, many of us react to life and then resent life, you wrote. The culprit behind that, I believe, is passivity. So how do we defeat passivity from the inside out, Christy?
Well, I think, passivity is one of those things that I would say is hard to fix. I think that people that have a victim mentality or people that make excuses and sit around and complain, I don't really, to be honest, Chris, I don't know what to do with them. Because I'm like, if you want to fix things, I will give you my all to help you fix it. But if you don't want to fix it and you just want to complain, I'm going to move on to someone that wants to fix it. So I will say that if someone is in a slump, and this we all get there, if you're in a slump, it's amazing. We can get overwhelmed by all the things there are to do. But what's interesting is just one tiny micro step will give us confidence and momentum to take the second micro step and the third and so on. So let's say that you are, you've been in your house for, I'm using extreme examples here for effect, but you've been in your house for a week and you've been in pajamas and you haven't left and you're just discouraged and just feeling really down. Okay, for you, just put on normal clothes. Just put on normal clothes. That simple act then moves you to, well, maybe I could go check the mail. Well, now I'm out of the house. Now I've got fresh air on my face. Now the sun. These tiny micro steps fuel confidence and momentum. Before you know it, you are out of your slump. You're moving and making progress. This is exactly how I coach women to start businesses. It doesn't have to be this massive undertaking. Just start with a Google search. Does that business exist in your area? Just start with putting the word out there. These simple baby steps can have a huge domino effect in your life. I actually just had Amy Grant on my show, the Christy Wright show, recently, and I asked her something about overwhelm. And I said, how do you keep from getting overwhelmed? She said, when I get overwhelmed, it's when I'm thinking too far down the line. When I'm thinking, and I've got to do this tomorrow and next week and the next month and in the next 10 years. She goes, but if I could just focus on today, I can do what's today. I can do this interview. I can do this one thing that's in front of me. So it's taking your focus off of all the overwhelming things in front of you. And again, be where your feet are. Look at today. What's in front of you today? Just get dressed. Just check the mail. Just do a Google search. Just show up for work one day. Just do one tiny thing and watch how that becomes the first domino that fuels the second tiny thing, the third tiny thing, and so on. Before you know it, you have gotten yourself out of that slump of passivity and you are starting to activate action and actually making things happen.
Well, as we take these steps forward, I think one of the greatest assets we have is a one-word complete sentence, and it's no.
Yeah.
Christy, you wrote this. You said, you don't have the right to say no. You have the responsibility to say no. That's so strong. I mean, in this conversation, then, teach us how to protect what matters most. Because, again, if we're talking about the person who you're saying, do the next right thing, that first step, whatever it is. But as you move forward in life, as we move forward in life, more choices, more opportunities, more decisions are going to come our way. And we have to learn how to sift through these in order to keep our focus right. Teach us how to protect what matters most, especially as the calendar starts to get more full.
Well, you know what? I just thought about something as you were talking that I haven't thought about in this way before. So it's funny. You know how we were just talking about how like we jump to these extremes. Well, it's hard, so my life is wrong. I'm a failure. Like we create these narratives out of like one specific thing. That's what we do with the word no. Here's the thing with the word no. People are like, they jump to this conclusion that if you say no, you're a bad, horrible, evil person. Well, I'm not a bad, horrible, evil person, so I just don't say no. It's like, what? Saying no does not make you a bad, horrible, evil person. If you think it does, then of course you don't say that because you don't want to be this bad, horrible, evil person. Here's the great news. It doesn't. Saying no does not make you a bad person. It makes you a wise one. It means you're a good steward of your time, your talents, your energy, your money, and so on. So what I'd love to help people do, because so many people will write me off. They're like, well, you're an Enneagram 8, so it's easy for you. You're right. It is easier for me, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. Here's the thing you need to know. You can say no in a way that's true to you. You can say no in a way that is kind, that you're actually comfortable with saying. You can say no without ever saying the word. And so what I encourage people to do, especially people that are really uncomfortable with this, is think of no like a muscle. If you've never exercised this muscle, that muscle is weak and wobbly the first time you exercise it. But over time, it does get stronger. It does get easier. I use the example of my husband. So he says no to me all the time with all of my many ideas and in all of his wisdom, which is true. He keeps me from spending all of our money and committing all of our time. And let's just say hypothetically, of course, I come home with a new idea to get a dog, which may or may not be an idea I've had in the last month. And I come home, I'm like, babe, listen, you know what we need to do? We need to get a dog. Like we're dog people. It's been a long time since Jackson's passed. Mary Grace loves dogs. The kids need a dog. Like it's summer. We totally need a dog. This would be something my husband would say. Wow, babe, I love how you love animals. I don't think now's the time to add another responsibility to our very crazy lives, but we can definitely talk about it in the future. So nice. The answer is the same. No, we're not getting a stinking dog. Have you lost your mind? We barely are getting sleep with our 3 kids, right? Like, but he doesn't say no and he's a huge jerk about it. He's so kind. He never even said the word, if you notice. So you can say no. You can politely decline. I'll pass. No, thank you. Thank you for thinking of me. Please ask me next time. Now's not a great time for me. That's not a priority. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
Yeah.
You can say it so many kind ways, but the answer is the same, no. But here's the thing that I want to challenge all my helpers, all my Christian helpers that just love to be a good person and all that. Here's what many people do. They say yes when what they mean is no and what they want to say is no. And then they show up for that thing that they said yes to with a bad attitude and resentful. And here's what I would challenge. An honest no is better than a dishonest yes. Practice using that muscle, and I promise you it does get easier. I think it was Warren Buffett said, the difference between successful people and very successful people is very successful people say no to almost everything. You've got to have the ability to say no to things that are not right for you if you're ever going to have a chance of spending your time on what is right for you.
Christy, I'd love to land here. You wrote, wherever you are in life, you'll find what you're looking for. And to me, that speaks again about expectations and the power of a focused life. Land this point home for listeners.
Well, I use the example of how we often look on our past fondly and we focus on the pain in our present. So we think, oh man, I wish I was in college and carefree. Remember before kids, we did all this stuff. And then right now it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired and there's peanut butter all over my walls and I don't have any sleep and there's toys everywhere. And I just think that in any situation, you'll find what you're looking for. And if we can shift our focus to looking for the good in the exact season that we're in, even in hard seasons, I would challenge that if you can look for the good, then it gives you a different level of appreciation for that moment while you're in it. Because yes, there's peanut butter on my walls and there's toys on my floor and I'm very tired. But you know what? When my kids are 16 and there's no peanut butter anywhere, I won't get those snuggles in those footy pajamas. There's so many wonderful things, and how my daughter last night says words wrong, and my sons wrestle on the trampoline, and all these things that are so beautiful right now. If we can focus on the good in our present, then it allows us to experience it with a deeper level of appreciation before it's gone.
That's so brilliant. Christy, talk straight to the listener. Finish the sentence. I wish you blank.
I wish you knew what a good job you're doing. You're already doing a good job. I want to take that foundation and build on it so you can shake the guilt. But I want you to know, above all else, you're already doing a good job.
Christy, thank you so much. What a great conversation. And I'd love for all of the listeners, all the viewers here on YouTube as well, to be able to connect with you. How can they do that?
Oh, thank you. ChristyWright.com. And then social media, I usually hang out on Instagram at Christy B. Wright.
Awesome. Christy, I love my Ramsey family. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for all that you do.
Hey, go to wintoday.tv/episode 261 right now. Within the show notes is a link to purchase Christy's brand new book, Take Back Your Time. And next week on the podcast, my good friend Jordan Rayner joins. It's sort of a page 2, a chapter 2 to this conversation today. We're talking all about fake productivity and why you and I have a moral obligation to pursue solitude as we seek after doing what matters most in our time, with our day, in our purpose. Here's a preview.
You and I have to metaphorically sing our own I want songs, getting crystal clear on this is the thing I want for each of my callings.
Yeah.
And that thing has got to be big. It's got to be hairy. It's got to be audacious, in the words of Jim Collins, in order for there to be a burning yes inside of us that helps us say no to everything else. Because if that yes isn't burning, we can easily get drugged down into the thick of thin things and just say yes to everything, because who cares? There's nothing that's really inspiring us and driving us and focusing us and focusing our to-do list.
Jordan Rayner's here next week. Don't miss the conversation. In fact, next week, you're getting 2 fresh episodes, so don't miss. Thanks again for joining the conversation this week right here on Win Today. I believe people just like you should be able to live successful, meaningful lives, and that's why I want to invite you to join the inner circle of readers on my email list who get weekly, well-researched self-improvement tips. So right now, go to wintoday.tv to sign up. It's absolutely free. And lastly, whether you're a new listener or have been listening to the show for a while, I'd really appreciate your rating and review of Win Today on the Apple Podcasts app. So right now, will you write a short, honest review? Doing so helps expand the listenership of Win Today, and that would mean a ton to me. Thanks again for listening today. I hope you have an awesome week. We'll talk to you again really soon. Bye-bye.